good? Well, let's start out by asking folks if they can hear us clearly.
What?
We'll chime in and see if they can hear us from what happened a couple of weeks ago. Can't happen again. Is Cobey Feher Jr. live on the
Is he?
screen? There's a delay.
There's a delay. Can you see him? Can you see him on the screen?
We're not in any hurry. We got to get it right.
There he is.
He's good now.
All right, we're good now.
I got it.
All right.
All right, boys.
See it, look. That's what they're seeing.
All right, good stuff.
Okay. There he is. All right, here we go. Let's get this ball rolling.
Live from an octagon deep below Barberton's failing drainage infrastructure, it's the Crispin Park Podcast, the People's Podcast, with your hosts, the master of the Hoodsman Shanghai Sleeper, Zeke of Haiti, and his partner, the man who's tapped out every time he's argued with his wife, Brian Hastings. Tonight, the special guest, MAA fighter Cobey the Dawn Feher Jr. It's the Crispin Park Podcast, the People's Podcast. Everything is on the table. Hell, tonight, someone may go through the table. Zeke and Brian, it's time to walk that aisle. The Crispin Park Podcast is locked in and ready for prime time. Let's go Mike side with Zeke, Brian, and MAA fighter, the Dawn, Cobey Feher Jr.
Right on.
You good?
You're good.
Yeah. See, when I come close to this, man, it starts ringing like that.
Sail back a little bit.
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
What's happening? We can hear you good.
Go.
Welcome to the show.
Cobey, can you
Hey.
hear me? So I don't know that we can hear me. Cobey,
What's up, brother?
you got me? Okay, good. Okay, let's start off tonight. First of all, a couple of weeks back, we had Councilman Justin Greer on the program, and there was an issue with the sound. People couldn't hear what we were doing, and it was unfortunate. In my haste, we had gotten a new camera that day, like 6-7 hours before the show, and in my haste, I was yelling at everybody to get it set up. And we was yelling at Brian and Chris and my brother Paul Braxton. I was just yelling at everybody. Paul, our sponsor, JB Construction and Cement. Thank you for everything you guys have done for us. We good?
I can hear you, but I think it's through his mic, maybe.
Try it now.
Can you hear me now? It's really loud in my ears, man. Mine is really loud, like piercing.
All right,
Yeah, I'm good. But it's just really loud in my ear, like really loud. Like turn it way down. Just keep going, because it's really loud. if you keep going down there, it sounds like it's going up.
How's that?
So it's just really loud. Like when we did it with Dre, it wasn't as loud. When we did it with Justin, it wasn't as loud. Let's pierce in my ears.
Well, now it's fine.
It's still like it's pierced. You want to try? We can listen to it. Put it under here.
How about that?
That's a lot better. That's
Okay.
That's a lot better. But I don't know. Let me see. Cobey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you if you like when you talk a little louder. I can hear you pretty clear.
Okay. That's a lot better, Brian. Now,
All right.
now it's normal.
All right.
Okay. So let me apologize to Justin Greer and the people of Barberton because Justin Greer did a great interview.
Yeah, he did.
I expected him to just give PCBS answers. That's what I expected. And he really was so candid, and so honest, and so transparent. And I was like, I didn't know him. And so I'm a big Justin Greer fan now. I think for the folks in Barberton, you got a councilman that is like he is so candid. Like he was available to answer any question and honestly and openly. So Justin, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan, and I'm glad you came on the show. And we got to do another interview with you sooner than later. So because part of that for me, I thought was the people of Barberton deserve that. They deserve their councilmen, councilwomen, the mayor, people who are running the city. The people deserve to be able to see an interview like that. And I feel like in my haste I ruined it. So I'm apologizing to Justin, the city of Barberton, Brian, Chris Berg, Paul Brapson, our
They're
sponsor.
saying Zeke's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear?
That's what Paul Brapson said. He said it's hard to hear.
What about me? Can you hear me good?
I can hear you so good.
Okay.
So he can hear you good, but he's having an issue hearing you.
I don't know why.
How about now? Let's ask them if they can hear me now on the live. Can you guys hear me now? Cobey, can you hear me?
No, sir. I mean, I can hear you, but not as clear as the other mic.
So you can hear him, Brian, right? He said he can hear you really clear, but he's having an issue hearing me.
They said they can hear Brian perfect, but they can't hear you.
Yeah.
Maybe switch the microphones.
How about now? Can you hear me now? I know there's a delay, so that's kind of an issue.
You don't have to be quiet. I mean, I am, but you know.
So can they hear me now?
No one's responding. Brian, can you put your microphone in the middle of you and Zeke share the mic? That's a better way to do it.
How about now?
There's no reason you shouldn't be able to hear him on it.
Yeah, they said it's no better. They can't
It's
hear
no
you.
better now?
Switch the microphones. Tell them that.
Should I turn this one off?
Yeah, turn that on.
I'll turn this off.
Okay.
This one out. This one's out.
It was weird because earlier when they were testing it, you could hear it perfect.
Which one was Greer on? Justin was on one of them. All right, let's see if they can hear me now. I don't.
I can hear you clear. I can hear you good now.
Now Kobe's got me now, good.
Okay, good.
But can you turn it up a little bit? Because
Turn it up.
I can barely hear myself. Yeah, there we go. That's good. That's good right there.
there?
That's good right there. Now find out if they can hear me on the live.
All right. There we go.
See what that's. That's a lot better. This is what it sounded like when we did Dre.
Yep.
This is a lot better right now. Kobe, can you hear me good now?
Yeah, now I hear
Okay,
you smooth,
okay,
bro.
now we're
I hear you
good.
clear.
All right, brother, we're good.
Well, just to give you an example
Yeah.
of what it took to get the sound running. Justin Greer came back today,
Yeah.
gave me 2 hours of his time.
Right.
And if you want just a remote inclination of the horrible luck that we have,
Right.
at one point when he was outside doing a sound check, a helicopter literally hovering right above the power lines.
That's why we should have stayed. No, listen, but that's important because me and you should have stayed doing the program under the chicken house, because then the folks at Langley can't keep up with us.
That's right. Now that we've got out here, it's all over with. Everyone knows our location.
I was so upset the night the Justin Greer interview wasn't heard, right? I was so upset that I couldn't sleep that night. I was cussing at everybody. I was mad at everybody. My wife then became annoyed at me. Then I'm snapping at my kids, and I was in a bad mood the whole next day. And I come home from work that day, and I go to get the mail, and I'm still complaining to myself. You know, I'm still whining and moaning, complaining because I was so mad. You know, and in the mailbox, I had received a postcard from Dick Hoyt, legendary Dick Hoyt. And he said he had received my book, and so just that made me feel better, and I needed that in that moment. So, anyways, tonight, Cobey, Feher Jr., the Don MMA fighter. Cobey, I kept thinking tonight, where would I start with you? What would I want to ask you first? You're 26 years old, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I would say most athletes come into their prime like 27, 28, 29, and that age, maybe 30. But I've only seen you fight twice, and you lost both fights. And if you remember Coach Donnelly, he teaches at Barberton High School. He sent me both of these fights, so I watched them. Like I'm studying the film on this. And one fella you were fighting, I think it was in West Virginia. And he was a black guy. He was tall. He was a lot taller than you. And you were manhandling this dude. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, you're tapping out. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go forward now. Now the only other fight I watched you fight was here recently. I think it was your last fight.
Yeah.
Another guy you're better than, and you seem to be manhandling this guy. And then the next thing I know, you're tapping out again. So I texted your stepmother, Jen North, after I saw that. And I said to her, I said, what does Cobey plan on doing next, like after MMA? Thinking in my mind, okay, you're going to start going elsewhere in your life, that you're going to leave this behind. So Jen texted me immediately, and she said, what are you talking about? He's going to keep chasing his dream. And so that text by Jen really stopped me in my tracks, because it's impressive to me to see a guy lose and come back, because you learn more about people in losses and defeat, and how there's a lot of American males, they all want to be tough guys and they're really not that tough. But for you to come back after a fight like that, after two fights like that, and you're still at it, that's impressive to me, man. So I want to say kudos to you. Like, you got heart, because a lot of people would quit. A lot of people, and I know your dad and a lot of folks went to that fight where you fought the African American fella, and wasn't that in West Virginia?
It was in like Tiffin or like Findlay. It was in the middle of nowhere in a horse barn.
Okay, let me ask you this: both these fights, you had control of both these fights. Okay, so I'm looking at the film. I watched the film on both of those several times, and I'm thinking, okay. How did you end up losing these fights? Is it concentration? Is it conditioning? What happened in both those fights that you had control of? Like these guys had no business beating you. No business.
Yeah, right.
You were better.
For sure not.
So tell me about that. What happened?
So my first loss, I took that fight on 3 weeks notice, and I think he was maybe like 4-2 or 5-2. And I was 1-0, and I took my first fight on 3 days' notice, and I'd never trained MMA one time.
Wow.
So then my second fight was on 3 weeks' notice, and I'd never been to an MMA gym. I still had never trained MMA formally. I just showed up and like kind of street fought with some wrestling, pretty good college wrestling, but just kind of street fought the guys and wasn't really a competent martial artist. So I kind of put my head in the wrong places and made a lot of wrestling mistakes when I first started. Like, you can get choked out wrestling,
Right.
putting your head in the wrong spots. Like, a jiu-jitsu guy will choke you out if you put your head in the pocket here. You're going to get choked. In wrestling, you don't have to worry about that. So my first loss, it was probably a cardio thing and also inexperience.
Okay.
And that last loss, I went in the fight with a different approach. Like, it was the first time I fought in the cage instead of just like doing a sport.
Yeah.
So I was on like a 3-fight winning streak, and I was smashing the guys pretty good, but I would leave the arena with a stale taste in my mouth because I felt like I wasn't very entertaining, really. So I was just kind of grappling the guy and laying on him and doing a little damage here or there, but not really crushing the guy.
Right.
So my last fight, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to knock this fucker out and smash his head in. And that's what I did. I had him in bad trouble. So I smelt the blood in the water and tried to get the finish and gassed myself out in the first round.
Wow.
And that was a short notice fight too, but there's no excuses. Like, once you get in there, there's no excuses. Like, what happens in there, that's the results, right?
Right.
Like, you
right,
can't
exactly.
be like, well, this happened or that happened. Like, no excuses. I took those losses. I deserve them. But with a few adjustments in the last fight, I would win that fight 10 out of 10 times, even on an all-nighter. I could be on a bender. I could drink for a month and beat that dude.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, because you said one was probably some cardio, and that's never acceptable. Like, to be at your level going in, because these guys are going in with bad intentions. So the cardio thing can never. Matter of fact, the last time I saw you in person, I was training and doing races with Andre, and I was running in the old neighborhood coming down from Miami to go up Morgan, and I start up Morgan and I hear someone calling me. This was probably like 2013 maybe, and sure enough, it was you calling out to me, and you come running across the street and you start running with me, and you were like in Timberlands. You became my training partner, and we were going up Morgan and we were having a whole conversation while we're running together, and you had Tim's on, and I thought, I like this guy. He's got some toughness about him. And what I noticed right away, I was like, okay, Cobey's cocky. Like, I knew your dad from when we were kids. Your dad moved over into the North End neighborhood where I grew up when he was younger. He lived right on the corner of Harvard and Norton Avenue. And your dad played ball with my brother Ben, Tim Widener, the Kuntzes. He played baseball with those guys. But I don't ever remember your dad being as cocky as you are. So, and I like guys who are cocky. I like guys who talk trash.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you better back it up. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The 2 fights I've watched you fight, you've come in confident. You can tell you got that swag going. You're Barberton tough. You know, you got support from everyone back home and the family. And then in both fights, you're tapping out. So that bothered me. Like, I was bothered by that stuff. So here's another question I have for you. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time. He's not much of an athlete, but he keeps beating all the best athletes in the world in the game of football.
Disciplined.
Yes, preparation. Film study. I want to ask you this. When you're fighting, going into fights, do you study film, previous fights your opponents have had? Are you studying that film? Are you studying like Brady did?
My approach is I don't even want to know anything about the guy. Maybe let me know his height or what stance he's in, or if he's like, maybe he's knocking guys out or something. I might want to know that. But I'm training with guys that are like the best strikers. They're black belts in BJJ. They're pretty tough wrestlers. So I see really everything. So no matter what they have to offer, I'm probably not too stressed out about it. But it's really a timing thing. So like when I was at Strong Style in Cleveland, every risk we took there was super calculated, and that's why I didn't lose, because I didn't fight unless I had 6 to 8 weeks to prepare.
Okay.
I wouldn't even think about saying yes to a fight unless I had a full camp. Right. Because then that's why we're having this conversation right now, because I didn't take a full camp, which that's my fault.
You said the first
artist,
one.
I got to take that. What's that, brother?
You said the first one was you did that in what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks, but I never formally trained martial arts at all.
Right.
Just besides wrestling.
So he can be in there with a guy who doesn't belong in there with him? But if they have knowledge of certain things and he doesn't,
Right.
Because other than like he said, he pointed out his cardio maybe would have, and that should never happen. Cobey,
Never.
that can never happen. Like
It can't happen.
Yeah, it can't happen. That's not acceptable, especially from you, because you're a dog, man. Like
Yeah.
that's the worst, because that's like beating yourself. You know,
Of course.
you have
That's
to.
the only tragedy. That's the only tragedy in sports is losing to yourself.
Didn't you have a no-show fight too? Where the other guy didn't show up.
I had a lot of those, to be honest.
But it was like one of the first ones though that everybody was waiting for.
Yeah,
The guy no-showed. I remember that.
He stayed at the hotel.
Yeah.
Ate the breakfast and then left.
At least he got breakfast.
I was like, "What the heck, dude? How the hell did you sneak out of here?"
Right. Who does that?
He smelled that he was like he was getting sacrificed or something. But
Right.
no, so like, I guess to answer your question, right? If I have 6 to 8 weeks to prepare, cardio's not an issue, right?
Right.
Even though you're tired, you're definitely tired as hell when you're in the cage. Even if you're in shape,
Right.
you're still tired.
For
like
sure.
you got a hell of a poker face, right?
Right.
But if you take a fight on 11 days notice, you're not running on the treadmill. You're not like you're training in the gym, right? You're training, maybe doing 2-a-days. Like I'm a martial artist, so I'm always training year round. I'm always going to be training until I die, no matter what.
Right.
But there's a difference between training for, training for a belt and trying to be a champion at something, or just routinely training every day. Like when I'm training for an event that I want to win, I'm putting the treadmill on 16, like the fastest speed it goes to, right?
Right.
So that's what it requires for me to get ready. I need 6 to 8 weeks. Well, in order to get fights, I've had to take them short notice just to get a fight. So if they, in the past, they'll be like, "Hey, you want to fight in 12 days?" I'm like, "Yes, hell yes." So then I take the fight, and then I get in there and I look like a dumbass, not in shape, because I was so thirsty to get the fight.
Well,
Right.
let me ask you this about you.
That's how that works. You have to be, if you wanted to fight consecutively, you'd have to just stay trained.
Yes, exactly. Well,
the
that's
time.
that's what I assumed he had been doing. Like
Right.
I had assumed he had been doing it. Let me ask you about your pops, because I know, my son Moses played ball, and when he was young, I was always working him out, pushing him, going to his games, and a lot of us as parents, we have kids that play sports. What's different when your kid's going into a cage and people are trying to take his head off? That's different. So your mom is Shelly Cadillac, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yeah.
so your mom Shelly and your dad Cobey, how did they deal with, like, because I thought about your dad the first time I saw you fight, when you fought the black guy and you tapped out, and I thought about your pops right away and how miserable he must have been, because as the parent, it's worse for the parent. Because you're living on and dying on everything that's going on. And then when basketball, football, all these different sports are one thing, but when you're going in a cage and people are trying to do you physical harm, that's got to be brutal for your mom, your dad. And then how is that for them? And does Cobey ever served you as a coach, or is he just the dad? Like, how does that's tough. That's tough for me to, because I used to be in that position with my son Moses in basketball, and I would live and die on everything, and so how tough is that for your parents?
I think they got experience dealing with it. I mean, I've been doing unarmed combat sports since I was 4. I've been wrestling since I was 4. I'd wrestled 8-10 matches in a weekend, 5-10 matches. It just depended on how many guys were there. And I'd lose 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, that's part of like growing, right?
Right.
Like putting your balls on the line. A lot of people don't want to do that because the end result can be bad, right? You could lose. People know you lost. It's vulnerable. You get choked out in front of your friends and family. Yeah, that's
Right.
it's kind of a weird experience, but I try not to look at it from their point of view, because when I go to a fight, I'm in a different kind of headspace.
Right.
But
Yeah, well, when you have kids of your own one day, though, you'll see what your pops is going through and your mom. It'll
I'm
be
sure he's
different.
gone
Trust
through
me.
it, but he kind of, I mean, in a sense, like they were getting me good at wrestling when I was young. My dad and my mom would take me to a bunch of different tournaments, and we'd compete, and I'd lose and throw a fit, and they'd kind of like take turns, like telling me how to behave in a way.
Right.
Sometimes my dad would be like, tear his ass up, Cobey, like smash this dude or whatever. You know, my mom would be like, all that matters is that you improve every year. That really put it in perspective for me. So I think they're kind of numb to it. I'm sure they're upset for a couple hours, but they know me and they know that this is like who I am and what makes me feel good and makes me enjoy my life. So I'm sure, like, I'm planning on dying in a cage. I know that sounds shitty and like super dramatic, but like would rather do that than die some sorry ass way, right? Like,
Yeah, well, you don't want to die in a nursing home. That's what I always say.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be damned. There's a movie. Hey, let me tell you something. There's a movie called The Perfect Storm, and in the end, George Clooney and Wahlberg, they end up they're in the ocean, the middle of the ocean, and Clooney goes down with the ship, and then Wahlberg ends up, you can see him in the water. And then a big old wave's about to swallow him. And I told my wife, I said, that's how I want to go out. Because I'm too good to die in a nursing home, man. I'm too good. I don't want my diapers changed. I don't want that. So I get what Cobey's saying.
I never planned on living that long myself.
Cobey, a lot of American males have they're all about that false bravado, where with you, that you have merit. You can say that. Not everyone can say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something caught my eye here recently. It was a Facebook post you made. You were at the McGregor fight in Dubai. And you were serving as a trainer for one of the girls that were fighting. And I didn't know this. This was all news to me. And evidently she lost, and something pissed you off because like the next day you posted something that I was like, whoa. And I'm thinking about your pops and your mom, and I'm like, would they be cool with you posting that? And the reason I'm asking that is because there are little kids in Barberton that hear about you, right? So you're a role model by default, whether you like it or not. That post, why did you post it, and do you regret posting it? And give me some insight on that.
Well, like, okay, I don't mind. If we're watching football on Sunday, I don't mind listening to armchair quarterbacks, right? Everyone knows a little bit about throwing a pigskin. They might be able to catch a slant. They might be able to run a slant route or, like, actually understand the game, like understand how punting works. Like, they understand football. So when they talk shit about it, I let them slide, right? And I don't ever check them or anything. But when they're talking about fighting, it's a little different because it's personal for me because I know the fighters, some of them, and I know what they're going through, and I know what I go through as a fighter. I mean, like, I've broke my nose several times. I fight every day, right? It's tough sledding. Like, you're going to have to be a bad dude to survive. So it's the regular American who I'm talking to, right? The people that the male that thinks he's effective in a fight, but couldn't hit the side of a barn with a punch, but then talks about a girl fighter and is like, oh, look, she's, they're talking about how girls are ugly. This girl's an ugly fighter. She's ugly. She's this or that. Like, talking shit about girls who are getting in a cage and, putting their brain cells on the line to entertain. Like, that's the whole purpose, because it's not money. The fighters aren't getting rich like people think. Fighters are getting $40,000 and $40,000, $80,000 to get their brains knocked out on TV to entertain. And then afterwards they get a bunch of messages like, you fought like shit. Thanks. Like, people bet. A lot of gamblers get upset because they bet on a fighter and then they lose. So then they message the fighter and they're like, you're ugly. I hope you die. Like, this shit happens like every day, right?
Stop it.
I'm not even that good I'm not even like in the UFC or a high level pro, and people could message me hateful shit. You know what I mean?
You get hate mail for free.
Yeah, like, damn. Like, at least let us talk shit back a little bit. Right. And then when we talk back, everyone thinks we're crazy or something,
Right. So I got to ask you how.
I'm sure I should think about that a little more often, Zeke, like what my parents think. But like,
bro, because listen, like, I love the passion. I love the passion. Like, I would have made a post like that 10 years ago. Now I can't. I mean, I wrote a book about my life story, and I talk about being an abusive husband. And I think in your post you had said something about slapping somebody's teeth out, and I was like, I can't post something like that, bro, because I was abusive.
It was they could slap your wife and you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, why would you talk? But that's my thinking though. Like, I was just I guess I use it to put my thoughts out there, and that's a dumb idea on my part, but I still keep doing it anyways.
Well, but it's honest. But sometimes when you're emotional, like you were that night, because you had a lot invested in that young lady that was fighting. I get that. I get that. But that's why I asked, because there are kids in Barberton that look up to you, man. Like, so whatever you're doing, they think is cool. So if you're posting stuff like that, they think that's cool, right? So that's. You're young still, so you'll learn as you go. But Brian, I think you had a question you wanted to ask him. But remind me to come back to another post you made concerning kind of like this conspiracy theory stuff, because me and Brian, that's us.
Everybody knows that there needs to be an override emotions app.
Yeah.
Just prevent all that from happening.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you how you came up.
I use IG to talk my shit, right? And I try to keep my face card together, right? Facebook is like, if you want to hear the most wackiest shit that I think, go look at my Facebook.
Right.
If you want to see how I try to impress my peers or whatever, go to IG, right? Like,
yeah,
right.
And that's a bad policy, but like.
Yeah,
I don't really care. That's the hard part.
As long as you don't care, then who cares?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it, man. But I'm not a PR guy. I'm a fucking barbarian. It's kind of hard for me to.
Well, let me ask. Now that you say that, do you then say, well, if I continue, is it your dream to be a professional and be a champion? I'm sure it is. I'm going to assume here. So at that point, though, then don't you have to have a PR guy or somebody to say, hey, Cobey, that's not your best interest to post some shit like that? Like, you just, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sure. I'm like in a gray area, because like my wrestling was good, and I don't know. I kind of get a little ahead of myself sometimes, right?
Well, you look the part. You look the role.
Right.
You look like a bad dude. And going back to the being in shape and the cardio, that is unacceptable from a kid from Barberton. Because Cole, we're from Barberton, man. Like we're the underdogs, And people are always kicking on Barberton all the time. So everyone wants to rally behind that kid from Barberton. And
that's how I got into fighting.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't even fight if it wasn't for the kids. And I got into wrestling. I continued wrestling at a high level, even though I hated it, which is the truth. I hated wrestling more than probably anything.
And why is that? Because you couldn't do more damage, like bite, punch, pull. I mean, just
yeah, kind of. Sometimes if I would lose to a guy, it would bother me really bad that we couldn't fight.
Yeah, exactly. Do your high school and college coaches, are they texting you after an MMA fight? Are they texting you? Are you still in contact with these guys? And if they now are hearing that you admitted that, say, hey man, sometimes it's cardio, are your coaches, is your pops, is somebody saying, bro, that can't happen? Like, do you have someone holding you accountable other than the coach you have currently?
Well, I mean, I was kind of like, my fighting career has been, it's just been bizarre. I've had to go through like ups and downs, moving, changing coaches. At my original gym, I was kind of like I was like the 8th hitter. Yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, I should be the leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm the baddest motherfucker. What are you talking about? And they weren't understanding it the way that I needed them to at the time, and I was getting frustrated. Just kind of caused me to have like a little bit of competition anxiety, maybe self-doubt that I wasn't really experiencing when I was in college, because I felt like I was the chosen one when I was in college, and I was doing that for Barberton in a weird way, and like only people that really know me know this, like Coach Moore, Coach Mariola, my dad, my mom.
Right.
I wanted to be an NCAA champion for Barberton. I'm like, I'm going to win a national title, and they should have like a freaking parade there.
Yeah, and have a statue for this. Right.
The statue. And that was my thinking. And that's probably crazy, but you should think that way.
Yeah. It's crazy for most people, but you're at a different level, and I understand that. Most people that's crazy, but not for a guy like you.
And like, I wanted to be So I've been on some people down there at the school about them not getting my sign together, right? The purple sign.
Yeah.
Because I see they got it for people, right? And they deserve it. If you do, like, they should put that shit up for more things. They should be putting purple signs everywhere.
Right.
If you graduate from college, throw that shit up.
Right.
Instead they highlight the ODs and the DUIs and throw that on the front page of the shit. Yeah. And then little old me's got a problem with it, so I go to Facebook to talk my shit, and I look like an idiot. And it gets taken out of context. Right. But those signs.
Let me tell you something. In your defense, there are some signs hanging around Barberton.
That's Barberton, right?
Yeah,
there.
there's some signs. Some of those names on those signs don't belong in the same area code with me, Chad Hazard, you. I mean, there's a whole list of guys. I mean, how many? It's not often that a Barberton wrestler gets inducted into the Barberton Sports Hall of Fame, I don't imagine. But you've been out of school long enough now that somebody could nominate you and you could get in, correct?
That's true, yeah.
Okay, well,
I don't know.
A lot of folks call that the Good Samaritan Award because guys like Cobey, Feher Jr., maybe because of a post he's made on Facebook, people look at that and say, well, I can't nominate him because he's cussing. And,
that's true.
You know, talking about violence against others. And, yeah. Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
Tune in. Tell them to tune in if they want to see more of it.
You also made a post.
At least you're consistent.
You made a post recently.
That's right.
Cobey, you made a post recently, and it had something to do with shame on me for not going back and researching it, but it had to do with the current political climate, and it had to do something with what most people would say crazy conspiracy theorists. But when I saw that, I said, okay, this is my guy now. Because at your young age, you're starting to get it. Do you remember what post I'm talking about and what exactly you were talking about in that post?
No.
Yeah, okay. That's my fault. I should have gone. Brian, it had something to do with the current political climate in this country. And I don't know if...
yeah. Just how it's rigged like the WWE.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
So not only were you talking shit, but then you were talking shit about politics too.
Yeah, but you know what? No, that either says a lot about whoever his mentor is, or his father, his mother.
I love it.
In other words, you've been raised around people who get it, and they've passed it on to you. Because most people your age, they don't get that type of stuff yet. Most people our age don't get that type of stuff yet,
right?
You know, and so that's so impressive. Like, you as a total package, right? And I'm not in the business of flattering folks. I just don't do it. I talk a lot of shit myself. I mean, you know, you coming back time and time again after losing, that heart to just keep coming and admitting your mistakes. And then showing like how well-rounded you are. You're enlightened on what's going on. You're not some sheep walking around following everybody blindly. You know what I'm saying? I love that. I love that about people like you, man. And so I'm proud. I want to just say I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, bro.
And I do need to think a lot more about how I portray myself, I'm sure, for the youngsters. But I hate to say it, if you want to make it, you're going to have to be a tough son of a bitch, probably.
Yeah.
And we already know it's tough sledding in our area. There's kids that come from, poverty, whatever, broken homes. That's America. It happens all over the place. But if it happens in Barberton a lot too. And I saw a lot of my friends get broken by shit. And like, for me, I probably should have broke. But in me, like, my dad bred me to be like tough as fuck. So
we claim Cobey from the North End neighborhood.
I appreciate that.
Right.
Cobey spent some time over here, so we had an influence on Cobey over here.
That's right.
From deep. I learned how to carry from Joe Sarge.
What's that?
Joe Sarge taught me how to dribble a basketball at Christmas.
Oh yes, yes. Well,
how to carry.
Underhanded.
Carry and smoke a cigarette.
Underhanded, count it.
Joe Sarge will probably be following you here real soon on the Crispin Park podcast. Listen. We've been negotiating with Joe's people, And it's been tough, I'll tell you, because Sarge comes with a list of demands.
That's right.
And,
You got to get him coffee. You got to get him coffee.
It's not as simple as you might think to get him here.
Yeah, no. So Sarge is another Hall of Famer. Real quick, and I'll say this: if you've had a kid grow up in Barberton in the '80s, '90s, 2000s, 2010s,
Sarge.
they all know Sarge,
Right?
And he's had an influence on your kids one way or the other, whether you know it or not,
Right?
And especially the basketball players. And so we're going to have Sarge on here real soon. And the Barberton Sports Hall of Fame, they do something now where they induct people that it's not just because of athletic achievement, or not even athletic achievement at all, but other stuff, maybe community work or what they're doing around the city. And Sarge, somebody should nominate Joe Sarge. And if nobody really, Joe Sarge should be, Joe Sarge is more popular than anyone in the city of Barberton. He really is.
He's in his own Hall of Fame.
Man,
he's a grand
bro.
wizard.
That's right.
I loved it when they played St. B in football a couple of years. Tony Gatto's high school football team here in Barberton, they played St. B, and they had the sign that said, you guys got LeBron, we got Sarge.
Right.
There's a big picture of that, and everyone had Sarge shirts on.
Yeah.
And
I got one.
Yeah, no,
have one.
Sarge should be in the Barberton Sports Hall of Fame, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Cobey Feher Jr., somebody stop it already. Somebody nominate this guy.
Right.
Chad Hazard, over 1,000 points for the Barberton High School basketball, and he's not. Come on, folks. Like, it's just unacceptable.
Because he had a beer or what?
Yeah,
What's the
something
problem?
like that. I don't know
Like,
who's running the ship down there, or who's picking people voting. It's just
Dude,
seems like
I
nonsense.
already went at him. I went at him. I'm like, look, I was the captain of 2 NCAA championship teams. I'm like, can you even wrap your mind around an NCAA championship? I'm like, you guys watch this shit on TV and understand like March Madness and what the teams, and they don't understand like the camaraderie that you go through with those guys. Like, I've been on 2 NCAA championship teams, 2-time All-American. I wanted a purple sign there for the little 5-year-old in Barberton who's in a Buick beat up ass car with his beat up mom and looks at the picture and goes, I'm better than him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fuck him. That's how you get there. You don't get there by being like, please let me get it. Maybe one day I'll have the chance. Like, no, you got to be like, give me my shit right now. And if you don't have that approach, especially coming out of an area like ours,
right.
Cobey,
let me tell you something. I think the Barberton Sports Hall of Fame, they might as well call it the Barberton High School Sports Hall of Fame, because if it was a Hall of Fame for anybody, people like you would be in it, because I think they have a criteria where you had to have won something district-wise, whether you were a competitive athlete on your own, like in tennis or cross-country or whatever it might have been, or a team. If you were on a team, you had to have been a part of a district winning championship team or something. So if you didn't win anything district in wrestling, I don't know if you did or not. Maybe you did, but there's.
I teched the dude I think I tech fought the dude in the district finals and teabagged him from North Canton.
Well, then hey, listen, then you meet all the criteria then.
That's what I'm telling him. I know I meet the criteria. I'm like, look,
teabag should be a guaranteed in right off the rip. That's a guaranteed.
No,
in.
that's why I like him, because he just is really. He reminds me of a younger version of myself.
Right.
But I was in.
You run as far as you did if you weren't crazy.
I gotta ask you where
you gotta be a little crazy to do shit like that.
Cobey, prison in Haiti.
Where did you come up with the name, the nickname, the Don?
Yeah,
where did that come from?
Yeah.
My grandfather's name's Don. My dad, his middle name's Don. My middle name's Don.
Nice.
And
now, is it Don or Donald, and then you guys cut it short to Don?
It was Don, straight Don.
Okay. Yeah, I always wondered that.
On my birth certificate, just straight Don. So, and I was always like obviously heavily influenced by a lot of rap, a lot of old rap, listening to like Ice Cube talking about being the Don or the Don Juan.
Because it screams mafia.
Yeah.
Well, listen. If you gonna walk in talking all that shit with the Don on your name, you better come in shape, man. Let's go, Cobey Feher.
You're telling me.
Come on, baby.
You're telling me.
All right, now I gotta ask. Now this is important. Now I'm not a big fan of this MMA stuff. I don't really watch much of it. I've watched you a few times. Watched a few of the the top people in the world like McGregor and stuff.
Yeah.
But I see this trend coming now with this MMA stuff. where they got these girls that used to be guys fighting girls. And
See, this is going to turn into a political discussion. I know it is. That's where you wanted it to go.
This has nothing to do with politics. This is just straight up common sense.
Yeah.
How do you have a girl or a guy that has his penis chopped off fight a girl in the same bracket?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I don't know if that's made it into
I plead the
MMA
fifth.
yet. I don't know if that's made it into the MMA.
Oh,
level.
I believe it has with the women.
It's on its
Oh,
way
maybe with the
over,
women.
but-
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
It's on its way over, but Fifth Amendment. This will get brought up in 37
See, I
years.
coached the Don before we went live. Before we went live, I was coaching him on that.
Right. Well, I mean, even if you want to take it to a political standpoint, the president just signed the papers for the where if you're in high school and it's the same type of situation, you want to be a girl, you're a boy, but you want to pretend to be a girl, that you're allowed to compete in girls' sports. And then from what I understood, if the school refused to comply with that, there was the potential for the government to cut funding.
Yeah, that's
It's all good unless it's a contact sport, unless they're trying to like break each other's bones or hurt each other.
So you
That's
think
what-
it's? I mean, you how do you feel about it? You think it's okay for a boy to run girls track and win every medal?
I forfeit.
You would forfeit, right? Exactly.
I've already forfeited. Everybody can do whatever they want now.
Right.
Kobe.
That's my opinion.
So they just forfeit. Yeah.
Kobe,
Let 'em do whatever, dude,
We're gonna
I
have
guess,
one of our guests next week is a guy named David Nico Hill, and he was one of the original MMA fighters. You can Google him later when you get a chance. He's going to be with us live next week, and he's played in a lot of Hollywood films. Played in some Bloodsport too with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and hopefully you get a chance to meet him at some point because he's incredible. And Richard Swiger is going to be with us next week as well. And but I can't say you're a Barberton kid, man. And
Yep.
I see a lot of you. Like I just looking at you and watching you, and not just fighting in MMA, but just how you live, how you talk, your swag. That I see a young me, and that just makes me proud to know you. I'm proud to know your dad. Of course, I work with your stepmom Jen, and Jen's good people. Love Cannon and Alice. Just you got a good family. I don't know your mom personally, but
I want to hear about your dad's about the Gorilla Sportswear.
Oh, yes.
And how that all got started.
yeah.
So it's just like, at first it was trying to take care of like a lot of my buddies, a lot of fighters. They're trying to get shirts, sell tickets, get sponsors, and it's really stressful to do that on your own,
Right.
especially when you're sparring hard and like doing 5 sports at once, juggling that, because you got to learn 5 sports to do anything in MMA. So, doing all that at one time, then my dad started helping me out and selling shirts for me and selling tickets, and then the other fighters were kind of like, hey, how the hell does Cobey sell so many tickets? And I'm like, my dad has a way of doing it. And they started going through my dad, and then Gorilla Sportswear kind of presented itself, and we just started making shirts for all the other fighters and trying to get them shirts at a reasonable price so they're not getting screwed over.
Nice.
Out in Vegas, are you wearing that gear all the time?
Yeah. I mix it up. I mix it up a little bit though. Mix it up.
Well, that's good stuff because I have like there's a pullover jacket I got the Gorilla Goon wear. That it's the only one that was ever made because they don't do purple. There's a whole story behind that, but I'm wearing it, baby.
Right.
And I wore it last week for the Justin Greer. I almost wore it tonight because having like, if anybody's Barberton, it's Cobey Feher Jr.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And but I'm proud of you, man. Like I'm
That's
really
been
proud.
my
Me too.
that was my whole motivation, to the point where people had to tell me, hey dude, settle down, stop doing it for that reason. Like, I wanted to put Barberton on the map and all this shit. I had it filled in my head like that's my duty in life. Like, I wanted to win the state championship in high school because like I'm a like poor I'm a Barberton guy
Right.
going against St. Edward's, the rich kids, right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
can pay money to learn the most expensive moves and fly all around and have nutritionists and guys holding them back and giving them steroids and EPOs while they're little kids. And I wanted to beat those guys, like especially coming out of Barberton. That's what made it special to me. That was the only reason I tried. If there wasn't that little Barberton connection involved, I wouldn't even have wanted to do it.
Growing up, is all you did was fight, just wrestling? Like you didn't play football or other sports?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
you did.
I played football. I played baseball. So I had maybe the first or second most tackles on my team in 8th grade in football. I played like corner, but before then I played like linebacker and nose. I always had the most tackles. I would smack the shit out of people.
Yeah. You just played with a different ferocity. You played with a ferocity other kids didn't. Yeah, exactly.
But when we got to high school, I was like 102 pounds my freshman year, and I was the youngest kid in my grade also. So, and like my high school wrestling coaches are like, yo, dude, I don't think you should play football. It's 100% chance to get injured, especially like with like my attitude.
Yeah.
So I would have got fucked up if I played high school football. I was too small, and I would have been trying to hit people like I was Ray Lewis. And I would have got hurt.
What style of martial arts have you mixed into your fighting style?
So it's like a lot of really good wrestling and clean entrances to my wrestling. So basically I'm using boxing and kickboxing to conceal the fact that I want to wrestle you and take you down and pummel you on the ground.
That's interesting.
So it's like Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling. I do American Jiu-Jitsu. There's another style called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out there.
So it's the softer martial arts that you're implementing.
Trying to avoid.
Or that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. Well, because you don't have time for it in fighting, because you got to shed the fat, or else, like you said, the cardio thing.
Yeah.
Well, instead of running, I'm skill building, trying to work on my boxing, trying to work on my guillotine, which is a choke that I cut off all the carotid arteries and they fall asleep. So I've been working on those things, right? When I first moved here, I had so many coaches at once.
Your dog wants to be on the Crispin Park podcast.
That's right.
He's trying to make an appearance, dude. I don't know what's up with him. He's special.
Well, Cobey, let me ask you this, going back to the Rocky movies, and I have experience in this myself. So the night before a fight, you're not having sex with your wife, are you?
I'm not what?
You're not having sex with your wife the night before a fight, right?
Not the night before.
Okay.
Maybe the day of.
Well, I made the mistake of doing that. Me and Dre were on the road in Indiana one time for an Ironman event, and I was having sex with my wife just hours before the race. So, and it was
your legs.
Yeah. When we got through with the bike, I couldn't run. I couldn't move. Like, we got through the swim and the bike, and my legs were gone after that. So that's why I was
testosterone to keep going.
Man.
Yeah, so I was curious. So when do you cut that off? A week before? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
I don't.
Young fighters want to know that stuff, right? Or they need to know it.
The young pups tell them, if you're in Barberton and you want to do good, no kids, no felonies, no drug problems. If you do those 3 things, that's the manual. That's the rule book. If you follow those rules, you'll be good. So for the younger cats out there, don't even mess with none of them girls, dog. Don't even do it. Tell them to go to read a book or something, man. Anything besides get a girl pregnant.
There you go. Words of wisdom.
Do we have any questions for him on the live? Anybody with any questions about you?
I can't see anything on the feed here. Isa, what do you got up there?
Nothing.
No.
Yeah,
apparently everybody's pretty entertained with us already.
Yeah, right. They don't want to hear my ass talk.
No,
I only popped up. I only popped up because I saw the Crispin Park and Zeke. I'm like, I'm down.
Yeah,
but we appreciate it.
They don't want to hear. I only come out of come out and talk every once in a while, dog. I don't want. I'm like usually avoiding the camera so I don't like incriminate myself for 30 years later, like over a joke or something, you know.
Right.
Hey,
Like,
are you a Nate Diaz fan by chance?
of course,
Yeah, me too. Nate Diaz was the reason I started watching MMA. And then there's another guy. He lives in Miami. He's from Cuba.
Masvidal,
Yeah, I think that he fought Diaz one time.
George Masvidal.
I think so. Yeah, and he manhandled Diaz. That guy's a bad dude, man.
Yeah, he's a bad boy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But yeah, no, you have to have appreciation and respect for the MMA fighters, man, because those cats are getting in there. And I always would say, McGregor, it was big of him to go in the ring with Floyd Mayweather because he doesn't belong in the same ring with Mayweather boxing. But if it was MMA, Mayweather would have probably got mauled. So when you're able to do different things, man, the boxers, they're not going in the MMA cage.
Right.
It's not
Do you have a
happening.
fight scheduled, a next fight scheduled now, currently?
Yeah, May.
May?
And where's that at?
I'm not sure yet. I try not to like think about the dates, which is horrible for promotion wise.
Yeah.
It's just like how I am. Like I don't like looking at the brackets or like looking at the event flyers or any of that shit. Like as a coach, I wouldn't want my athlete looking at that.
Do you still get nervous before each fight, or are you just beyond that point, like where you don't get nervous at all?
I have to be really scared
Yeah.
of you to train, right? So even if I'm not afraid, I'll fucking imagine the dude's like 17 feet tall.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
because sometimes it's kind of hard to convince myself to be afraid because like the worst things that could happen don't really scare me.
Right.
So I'm sure I will feel different, down the road because, fighters get hurt quite a bit, break their orbital or their nose,
For sure.
ears get shot off.
Long after they're fighting on pay-per-views, you don't see what's going on behind the scenes after that and the health issues. That
The
guys
hospital
have.
they got to go to after, just stitches.
Right.
I mean, it's a dirty game, but like I know exactly what I'm getting into. So
Well, somebody in Barberton, somebody nominate this guy for the Hall of Fame. Somebody, please.
Anybody.
I mean, it's unbelievable, man. He really should be in the Barberton Sports Hall of Fame.
Did you win national championship at Notre Dame?
as a team, we won it twice.
As a team,
I
twice.
lost twice, but here's another weird thing. So my senior year of high school, at the beginning of the season, I tore my meniscus wrestling, right?
Right.
And I never got it fixed until after my last tournament of college wrestling. So, and it's not that serious of an injury, but if it starts locking and catching, it becomes really painful. So my knee would lock up every single time I would wrestle 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Per practice. I'm popping my knee back in over and over. And I don't even think I told very many people about the injury,
Wow.
So I came up short a little bit, but I was kind of run down. I worked really hard in the summers, kind of like mismanaged what time I was at my best in wrestling. I'd probably be doing my best wrestling in the beginning of the year because I'd be fresh. By the end of the year, my fucking body would be run down from training super hard, maybe not sleeping, maybe drinking beer, doing things I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
But yeah, I got 7th place and 8th place at the NCAAs. So I lost in the quarterfinals twice, and I was winning 5-1 both times. And my senior year, I beat the guy who won it at 41 and 49.
Wow.
But
you guys won overall as a team.
yes, sir.
Nice. Twice.
And we won the national duels as well, and that's another national title.
That's quite an
technically.
accomplishment there.
Yeah.
Definitely seems Hall of Fame worthy.
Well, there are not you never hear, there's not, a lot of Barberton wrestlers that come out after high school and continue to march on and then, do what he's doing right now. I mean,
Right.
that's incredible.
Absolutely.
Somebody should take note and get this guy in the Hall of Fame, man. Before we forget, I don't know where we're at on time, but I want to say happy birthday To my nephew, King Solomon Josiah Petrie, he led Hoban to a state championship in golf, and he signed a letter of intent to go to Kentucky as a junior at Hoban. So you're welcome, Hoban. That's a Petrie bloodline right there. You're welcome.
Right. I want to apologize to Carla Dubovic for not being able to have her on last week
For sure.
due to my COVID issues.
Ricky Jr. and Landon,
We're all healed up
y'all
now.
better be in
Thank
bed.
you.
Get your asses in bed.
Carla brought us over some oranges to see
Did
if we
she?
could get our taste back.
Did
Yes, she did.
Well, we're going to have to get Carla scheduled to get her in here.
Yeah, we're going to. We're going to reschedule her for sure.
To my wife, Weaslene, love you. Diana, Zabora, Moses, Spartacus, love you guys. My wife's going to be having a baby any day now.
Is it any day now?
Yeah. Cobey Feher Jr., any kids in your future anytime soon?
Hey, this is the thing. I'm on camera. Damn it.
Okay. Yeah, you got to
I
plead the
want to
fifth.
keep it 1,000
Right.
with you, dog, but I got to
Fifth
butter it up
Amendment.
a little bit. Hold
Back
on.
to the Fifth
Let me butter
Amendment.
it up for you.
Kobe-
I keep throwing cats in there. Hey, I'm verbal. She got the verbal commitment. My old lady got the verbal commitment on the kids, but it's going to be a little while.
Well, whatever you do, Kobe Jr., whatever you do, if you have a boy, don't be too hard on him. Like, because I was too hard on my son Moses. I was really way too hard on him training and working out and wanting him to be great. And, so go eat. It's hard because when you're a guy and you have a son, you want him to be great. You want him to do better than you. And so that would be my advice to you. Girls are a lot more work than boys, but they're a lot more affectionate. And when you're in a nursing home someday, they'll be the ones taking care of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. I want my kids to like be playing saxophone, dog, golfing,
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
soft shit, like bouldering, like rock climbing at a fancy like somewhere expensive. Like
Yeah,
I don't want them doing no MMA, no wrestling.
yeah.
No, I've done enough of that shit. I'm talking like we need some middle infielders out of my bloodline.
Yeah,
or,
for
like,
sure. You
some
have
a little more leisure where it's not as tough on your mind and your body and your heart and your
Yeah.
soul. Like
well,
wrestling, that's just I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, a wrestling season.
you have great perspective, man. That's a credit to you, to your family, everybody, your wife, your mom, your dad, your stepmom, everybody that's involved in your life. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
I paid a lot of attention growing up in Barberton, and there was a lot of good examples, and most of it was like sometimes what not to do.
Right.
But that's a big thing when you're growing up there. Like there's kids, maybe they don't have the best male example or whatever. Like the most important thing is they learn what not to do from their peers. Like, hey, like this dude tried drugs. Look at how he turned out.
Right.
Like there's plenty of lessons and examples in that community for us to learn a bunch of different things, right? But it's like all about what we pay attention to, and it's like the culture. So like they need to start talking about the good shit. Like my friend Sam Jerome, he became a doctor. Like there's multiple people from my class who graduated from college. There's also kids who died, right? Like fentanyl, whatever, horrible shit.
Right.
Like I've been up close and personal with that. A lot of my friends overdosed multiple times. Like, so that's kind of where like I get bitter about that sign stuff, because like I'm like Barberton to a T, like in a nutshell, dog. Like I've lived on every side of Barberton. Like that's my shit.
Well, the last question I wanted to ask you is, going forward, where do you see yourself a year down the road, 2 years? Your dream, right, to be a professional MMA fighter, to be a champion. Where do you see yourself?
I got a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan, and I have them all written down. And then I have like little short-term goals that I try to knock off. But
yeah, because you're coming into your prime. You're supposed to, you're coming into those prime years where if you want to do some damage, this is the time to do it.
Yep.
Because Father Time is undefeated, and
for sure,
that your youth is your strength, and so we're gonna be following you. We're gonna be, like I said, Coach Donnelly.
So,
Coach Donnelly
in my
always sends me
1-year
your
plan-
film.
In my 1-year plan, I'll be a pro fighter in my 3-year plan, my athleticism and my experience will match up. And that's when I'll be in the UFC. And
Nice.
then in my 5-year plan, that's when they'll all be aligned. And my physical traits will maybe drop a hair, but my experience and my skill will be up here. So
Okay.
everyone will be in big trouble. So I'm in it for I'm playing the long game.
That
See, a
sounds
lot
like-
of people want to go nowhere fast in MMA. They're like, oh, I'm going to be Conor McGregor. Like, that shit's going to happen overnight. Like, it's going to take 12 years of being in the trenches. Like, I'm a kindergartner in MMA. I've been doing MMA for 2.5 years. I took my first 2 fights without even going to a gym.
Wow.
So for me, it's all about consistency over time.
Right.
That's how you get your, what's the equation? Consistency over time equals results.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
I'm learning 6 sports at once. Meanwhile, like, it's easy to be like, Cobey's an idiot. He went into a cage and got his ass beat.
Are you gonna?
And then just keeps coming because you keep coming back.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you gonna retire back to Barberton and open up a mixed martial arts studio?
Or probably a wrestling program, like an assembly line where it's like, but I need like to delete all my Facebook stuff and Instagram.
Right. Right. Everybody's offended.
I'm gonna have to pay some money to get all that shit erased or something.
Well, you could just delete your account and then you're done and just
I don't
open up a
know,
new
man.
one.
That's kind of hard.
But it doesn't matter what you do, somebody's going to be offended anyway nowadays. So
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
it really doesn't matter what you say.
Cobey, I'm currently blocked on Facebook from commenting, posting, all that kind of stuff. Every few weeks they're blocking me for something, for a comment.
Because you're going over the top. You know
They call me a
it.
conspiracy
I've
theorist.
never been in Facebook jail. Never. Not once. I refuse
Have
to
you
go.
ever read Fahrenheit 151?
I have not.
I'm familiar with that because of my brother Ben.
But I've watched some of their
They burned all the
videos.
books.
Yeah, I've watched some of the videos on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
I love a good conspiracy. I do.
Well,
I'm not really into politics because I haven't my IQ is probably high enough to process the shit, but I don't care.
Well,
Like,
Right,
Cobey,
right.
Cobey, let me tell you my take on this real quick before we end this tonight. I believe that COVID was introduced to get Trump out of office. Now hear me out. Trump, I'm not a Trump guy. I could give a damn about Trump, Biden, Democrats, Republicans. I could give a rat's ass. What the Republicans are all upset that that this happened and Trump's out, but they quickly forget that back in 2000, Al Gore beat Bush, and then the deep state went down to Florida and started working it out to where George Bush came on top and Al Gore had to go home. So the folks running things, the government within the government, they use the Democrats and Republicans and they make it look like they're against each other, but they're all working for the same bosses.
The real government.
it's the same bird, dog. It's the same bird.
Not the government we see, but the other one.
Trump wasn't going along with the program, and they was like, we can't keep this.
Get in line.
So-
Get in line, Donald. Get in
Yeah.
line.
So now all of a
He wouldn't
sudden,
get
now all of a
fined.
sudden, COVID's starting to go away a little bit, and everything's getting back to normal, and that's how they work, man. So, in any event, like
Identity politics is not a good idea for anyone, right?
exactly. Well, I was telling Justin Greer last week that I love him. I love Sean Jaber, and the only thing I don't like about them is that they're Democrats and Republicans. They need to be independent and come together, that way. Because
You're like, something's suspect here, dog. I don't know. I saw the Democrat or Republican thing. I'm like, I don't trust them.
yeah, no, it's all a racket. It's all
It's all
and
a
it's by
blanket full of
design.
smallpox.
It is by design.
Oh, absolutely.
If they cared, they would put the money into the youth. They could fix the country in 2 generations. By
Hey,
putting
listen,
money
what happened
into the youth.
on January 6th?
That's an interesting
the only
concept.
thing missing from the Capitol
Probably 100%
building
accurate, too.
on January 6th was black people and white people together. That was the only thing missing on that day.
Right.
Trying to hold people in Washington accountable. They need to be held accountable because what they've done to this country it's not acceptable, right? So blacks and whites come together because the power is with the people. The people just don't know it yet.
No, they don't. They haven't figured it out. But
Chris
2
Park
generations-
Podcast.
Thanks for coming on the
fix it.
show.
Our next
2
show
generations.
next week. Our next show, David Nico Hill, Richard Swiger. Richard Swiger did nearly 2 decades in the prison, and both of them just are incredible people. Some of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life, and So I wish you could be here for that, Cobey Jr.
That's about 8 years longer than me.
Yeah. Anyways, Cobey, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
we'll
much.
see you
man.
next time.
I got a little fired up a few times. I heard a few Barberton references. My shit was like, I started getting all fired up. I got to go work out.
Right. We appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
All right, bro.
And talking about those losses are going to have me on the treadmill now, damn it.
Right on. We're
Hey.
going to play this exit
Thank
for
you.
Let's go.
Zeke, thank you.
You've been
Yes, sir.
listening to the Crispin Park Podcast, the People's Podcast, sponsored by JB Construction and Cement. If you're in the Barberton, Norton, Doylestown, Wadsworth, hey Ohio, wake up! Give Paul and his crew a call. Your next project deserves the very best. Call Paul or visit their Facebook page, JB Construction and Cement. Join us next Thursday when Zeke and Brian's special guests will be Richard Schweiger and David Nico Hill, a former cage fighter and 3 men who've done time in the cage. They sit down for an uncut and unfiltered Crispin Park Podcast. From the Crispin Park Podcast, for Zeke of Haiti and the Truth Teller, Brian Hastings, reminding you the truth can be hard to find, and you sure as hell won't find it on the cable news networks. Good night, America.
All right.
Now that's fucking winning.
Was it off?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's winning right there.
What do you think, Chris?
I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, he couldn't hear none of it. We gotta get, I should have gave you a set of fucking headphones so you could listen to it on there, but Justin said it might cause feedback into here.
It would.
So I'm thinking you might have to, might have to get you a pair of fucking earbuds.
I'm just gonna watch it on my phone.
And yeah, but we'd like, there's a way that we can get you to be able to hear it too.
Yeah.
But I didn't wanna fuck with it tonight because we already got enough
So
shit.
you mean to tell me
going
of
on.
all the people that would have watched that, nobody had any questions for him?
Not really, just the ones that I asked. I didn't say who asked them, I just asked the questions. Hans asked the question. He was
Hans-
watching.
Hans did?
Yeah.
What'd he say?
He asked if he won this national championships. And Notre Dame, if they won.
Okay, the live's off now, so
Yeah, that's all, man.
doesn't look like what's his name shared it.
Who?
Bodner.
Oh, did somebody ask him to?
No, I don't think so.
I sent it to him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Justin said he's gonna get in his ear and tell him to fucking start streaming or shit on his news pad, or Justin's gonna part ways with him.
What?
Yeah.
Justin Greer just texted me, said that was good shit, man.
Good. Yeah. Good. I knew it was. I already knew it was. Z.
It started off so rough, and I was sitting here
Right.
thinking,
I don't know what happened with that mic.
'Cause I know-
Were you starting to panic?
no, but I was like, man, I felt bad because you guys had been down here for 24
The reason
hours.
I said to use
I
that
don't
mic
know
is
what-
because Justin was at that end of the table using that mic.
But here's the thing, we're still gonna have to have, next week we got 2 guys, so we're
Yeah.
gonna have to have the
It's all right,
mics.
we'll have a couple more sound checks. I'll figure out what's wrong with that mic. We'll be fine.
I just can't pay attention, when I'm doing this, I can't pay attention to my phone.
Right.
Because I'm just so focused on what I'm doing because, and you know, I got all these questions and I
I
can't.
can check, I can look at the questions on the phone.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I do, because I know where to hold it, you know, and I'm paying attention
Yeah.
where you're looking at papers and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'll have papers too, you'll have to look at it, you
Yeah.
know, but.
I'm home, when I got home this afternoon, I was home doing notes.
Right.
I'm just doing notes.
See, I was.
Because you don't want to have a time where there's a lull and we're just kind of looking at each other. You don't want to.
Right, right.
Because we're not pros, but we want to act as if, right?
Mhm.
Well, hopefully Biden will share that
There's a
soon.
lot of grunt work going on down here. We can't all be home making fucking babies. Okay?
Bro, it's been stressful, man.
There's a lot of grunt work going on down here.
It's been stressful. And believe me, I
Like
like
even Greer today, I'm gonna send his family some fucking chicken next week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take him over chicken dinners for his whole family.
Oh, wow.
He spent 2 hours down here.
Yeah, that's all.
You know, I know what 2 hours of my time is worth.
And he spent like,
You know,
like 2 hours on
I don't get out of my
videos
fucking
and
chair unless I'm making $100 an hour. I don't. I won't get out of the fucking chair. I won't. So yeah, I know what it's worth to him. He come down here for about 2.5 hours. You would listen. This
Plus
was
he was on the phone with us.
right. Plus he was on the phone with us last night. I'm taking his family over some chicken from the Christmas Park podcast. No, the funniest fucking thing today, and that's what I was talking about. We're out, like, we haven't had enough bad fucking luck already. We're trying to do sound checks. There's a fucking helicopter. And when I say helicopter, that's okay, it's not playing.
I was gonna say, Chris, what are you saying? Don't tell.
Still
You're
recording
not live. It's not, that's just, it's here, it's feedback to the microphone.
the counter right here.
No, I don't know. Shut it off all the way. Anyway, fucking helicopter, Z. Right above